I want to share with you a personal story that has inspired me to be called a chief disruptor. This is Jordan. Jordan is just the most beautiful boy you'll ever meet. In fact, I had the privilege of meeting Jordan a few years ago when my daughter brought him home. And frankly, it was love at first sight. And I know that sounds a little weird, but there was just something about him. He had a really caring nature, and he was definitely a disruptor. But what my daughter didn't know is that I actually had the hots for Jordan's grandmother 30 years earlier, because she was the damn sexiest Italian woman I'd ever met at an Italian function. And I remember I used to wait for her at these Italian functions when I was a teenager, thinking that if I just hung around Rosanna, just through osmosis, I'd become as dead sexy as she is. I think it kind of worked. What was amazing was this deep connection with this young boy that I'd only known for a short time, but something quite powerful about him. You see, Jordan had a motley crew of friends that he collected. Everyone from the ducks of the school to the kids that were really struggling with depression, alcohol and drug abuse, and everyone in between. On the 15th of December, 2013, Jordan passed away peacefully in his sleep from an aneurysm. It absolutely broke my heart and sent shockwaves through an entire community of people that absolutely adored this young man. A few weeks later, I attended his funeral at St. Mary's Cathedral in Sydney. The church was overflowing. More than 1,000 people came to pay their respects to this beautiful young man's life and very short life. What struck me at the funeral was seeing all these young people dressed in black. It just was wrong. There was absolutely something unacceptable about it. And all I kept thinking is, how do we stay together? How do I reach out to these beautiful young people and make sure that we're a community around his beautiful family? This is Jordan's heart. Jordan, as I said, had an incredible heart and huge compassion. One of the things that Jordan used to do is walk through a park in Sydney on his way home. And much to his mother's distraction, I'm sure, he would often bring homeless kids home for a bed, a meal, and a shoulder to lean on. You see, that's how he disrupted things. He was absolutely not conventional in any way, shape, or form. So in order to do something to remember this beautiful young man, we did something a little crazy. This is Jordan's tag. And a few weeks after the funeral, about 20 of us went to a tattoo parlour and tattooed his tag at some part of our body. I chose my wrist because I wanted to remember this beautiful boy's courage every single day in my life, and I absolutely have. Jordan also led us to a guy called Reverend Bill Cruz, who runs Exodus Foundation, a charity that catches people that fall through the cracks. You know, those people that don't fit neatly into any government or NGO service model, but Bill Cruz is there to pick them up. When Jordan was in primary school, he struggled with literacy, and his mum couldn't afford the literacy program that was available. But Reverend Bill Cruz had this free program for kids just like Jordan. It changed his life, and I honestly believe deep in my heart that the fact that he had his own affairs handled, he could be the person that he was in such a short life and be of service to others. So we took ourselves to Reverend Bill Cruz and we said to him, we're in mourning and we need healing and we don't know what to do. And Bill said a couple of things to me that really stayed in my mind. One was, Jordan was really lucky to have all of you, and you're lucky to have each other, because most people in this world have no one. He gave us an opportunity to celebrate Jordan's life by creating an award of compassion and care for all the kids that displayed that in the literacy program. That happens every term. He also told us that he wanted to create a school for little rascals, 11 to 15-year-olds that don't fit into the school system, and who, he wanted to create a school for them. What he also did is he said he would really love Jordan's friends, with the support of Jordan's mum and I, to volunteer to support these kids. But it was going to take a year to set this school up. And I remember saying to Bill, we can't wait. We need to do something now. We have to stick together. So he gave us another opportunity to volunteer at his Loaves and Fishes restaurant. This restaurant serves 1,000 meals a day to the most vulnerable people in our community. What I'm really proud about Bill and what really moved me, and I know Jordan did this for a reason to lead us in that direction, is that Bill does this without a dollar of government money. Without a dollar. 1,000 people a day. He relies on corporates, he relies on people like you and me, an army of volunteers. And I'm really proud to say that since the beginning of the year, myself, Jordan's mum, my daughter, all of Jordan's friends have actually been going every Sunday religiously to support other people. And we're feeling actually a little bit healed. In part, I know it's going to sound a little crazy, it's because I know Jordan's everywhere. And you'll find out a little bit more about that later. 1 in 7 people in Australia, the lucky country, live below the poverty line. That really upsets me. That's why I'm a disruptor of the status quo. Even more importantly, all 3 levels of government, the private sector, philanthropy, fundraising, contributes $250 billion a year to support social disadvantage or to break social disadvantage. That 1 in 7 figure is people's lives. It's not a statistic, it's not just something out there. So I learnt a few things by working with Bill Cruz, and that is, it's not about the money, because there's amazing people out there doing it anyway. We have enough. $250 billion annually is a lot of dollars, and I know we can do better. So in February this year, I had the most amazing opportunity of my life. I had the opportunity to work with a visionary and outstanding public servant called Eugene Mcgarrell. Eugene and I came together as 2 people and had this crazy idea. And that was to completely disrupt the way we were doing things in government, because clearly it wasn't working. Whatever we were doing, people's lives were getting worse, and lots of people were falling through the cracks. So the crazy idea wasn't so crazy at all. I think it's the way we operated in society many years ago. And it was to collectivise our efforts. I kind of discovered that there's all these parallel worlds operating in silos. So you've got government on one angle doing its thing, you've got academia doing its thing, you've got business doing its thing, NGOs, the wider community. Lots of people care and they do things every day to make someone's life a little better. But earlier this year, I also discovered a world called startups, tech, and design. And that blew me away, because what I didn't realise is these parallel universes were also committed to breaking the cycle of disadvantage. So this crazy idea that started with 2 people has now landed with about 40 people every week, growing to about 2,000 people on our database. And basically what we do is we just connect people. We connect the Bill Cruzes and the Jordans of the world to the corporate sector that doesn't know that they even exist. This is another hero of mine, and he's actually my mentor. David Pescud had similar problems with literacy when he was a young person, except he didn't benefit from a program like Bill Cruz's literacy program. Yet despite that, at some point David found solace in sailing. Apparently when you go sailing, you don't have to fill in a form, so nobody knows that you can't read or write. At the age of 41, David retired as a multi-millionaire. And instead of faffing around and travelling the world, and I'm sure he really wanted to do that, he decided to devote the next 20 years and more of his life to support disadvantaged people and take them out sailing. The other thing about David that you really need to know is in 20 years, he's taken 40,000 vulnerable people sailing, again, without a dollar of government money. There's also an area that I want to talk to you about. I'm not going to mention the area because it's pretty much typical of a lot of different areas in Australia. That $250 billion figure is effectively the tip of the iceberg for me. There's one remote area where all 3 levels of government spend $100 million a year. And yet you go into one of the communities in that remote area and you find that there's very few young people untouched by family and domestic violence, where the age expectancy of an Aboriginal man is 36 years of age, where alcohol and drug abuse is absolutely rampant. So whatever we're doing with that $100 million, it's actually not helping anyone. So I met somebody from UTS earlier this year, the University of Technology in Sydney, the design innovation area, a guy called Roger Watson. Roger opened my eyes to something called reframing, which is effectively disrupting the status quo in the way we even look at a problem. So when you look at the issues that come up in that area, okay, there's a lot of disadvantage. But why not ask the reason where that actually comes from? Because that's just an effect of people's pain. When you look beneath the surface and use design innovation as a tool, what you find is that in a 12-month period, in a population of less than 1,000 people, 42 people died. That means that there is no one untouched in that community by death virtually every single week. In fact, I went out to visit that community 6 weeks ago, and since I've been back in Sydney, 6 people have died, a funeral every single week. So you look at an area like this, and I actually asked a question that was inspired by design innovation, which is, when was it okay in this community? And people told me something quite strange that I wasn't really familiar with. Last year, the river was full and everyone was okay. All the reports of disadvantage and abuse went down to virtually nothing. It really got me thinking, what's this got to do with anything that government's actually doing at the moment? What I realised is that when the river's full, the community have another focus. They come together around the river, they go fishing, they have picnics, they support each other, and therefore the results are amazing. So while I know it's not my job to fix a river, and I certainly don't have any experience in it, I can tell you very strongly we have a stake in doing something about that river. So in the coming months, I'll be going out there and doing something with UTS and a whole bunch of corporates. So I want to just share with you in my final minutes 2 stories of what the collective can do. So I mentioned David Pescud, not a dollar of government money. We've connected David Pescud to community sector banking, and they've now highlighted him as the first cause to demonstrate something amazing to their bankers. So now a different community that wasn't aware of David's work will have the opportunity to support him. So clients of community sector banking will have an opportunity to support sailors with disabilities and keep that amazing work going on and on forever. There's another example. In this tech world, there was a study done by University of Melbourne some years ago which found that 80% of people in Silicon Valley are on the Asperger's spectrum. Are you really surprised about that? It's also high-functioning autism. So the lab was created by a bunch of dedicated people who decided that wouldn't it be great to get these young kids that are feeling stupid or feeling that they're no good or that they have absolutely no hope in the world and bring them together with programmers and get them to realise that they have a skill and a strength. What happened was actually quite amazing because I rang them and said, I'd love to bring you to Sydney and get you to join the collective. And they said something which in fact is music to my ears. We don't want any government funding because we like the way we do it. And the way they do it is they reach out to the community. They get a bunch of people on board, programmers, techs, to support the kids through mentoring. The parents pay a small fee, and can I tell you, so pleasantly and willingly. So now we've partnered them with Fujitsu, where a team of people from Fujitsu Australia are actually going to go and work with the kids from the lab. To me, that is unbelievable. So I'm certainly not suggesting that government should fund everything. In fact, what I know is that we actually often are not the answer. But what I am suggesting is we absolutely have enough, and we definitely can do better, and it's not about the money. So what I want to do is share with you my inspiration. The week that Jordan passed away, I was crying inconsolably in my car. I was driving to visit my mum, and I just couldn't breathe because I was so angry at losing this amazing, beautiful human being from our planet. And I remember having to pull the car over, and I looked up in the sky, and that's what I saw, a heart. And what it said to me is that Jordan was okay and that he was in a better place and that he was absolutely everywhere. And that's what I think has given me the courage to pull everyone together in the concept of this thing called the collective and absolutely, wholeheartedly and passionately disrupt the status quo every single day of my life. So what I want you to do is to have a think about how you can be the change. Please hashtag Jordan's Heart and tell me what you're going to pledge to do to make this world a better place. I share with you Jordan's heart so that you can have the courage to disrupt whatever it is that you need to disrupt in whatever field or discipline that you're in, because he is my inspiration after all.